Love beyond money. A true feeling story of love, pride, and second chances. My name is Sophia Bennett, and I never imagined my life would turn into something like this. I was 22, the only daughter of one of the wealthiest families in the city. My father owned 3 shipping companies. My mother collected art from Europe. I had everything money could buy, except the one thing I actually wanted. Someone who saw me, not my last name. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. I had slipped away from my driver and my endless schedule just to sit alone in the small public garden near our estate, the one place that still felt real to me. That's where I first saw him, a boy carrying baskets of sunflowers and daisies toward the garden gate. He moved like the noise of the city didn't touch him. I remember thinking he looked like he belonged in a story, not in this loud, tired world. I didn't know his name yet, but I couldn't look away. He noticed me watching, and instead of walking past, he placed a single yellow daisy on the bench beside me. "This one's free," he said, smiling like it was nothing. I laughed before I could stop myself. "Thank you," I said. His voice was steady, warm, unbothered by who I was because he had no idea. His name was Ethan Cole, 19 years old, working as a delivery boy for a small flower shop 2 streets away. We started running into each other again and again, though neither of us ever planned it. Sometimes I'd be reading on that same bench when he passed by with his baskets. Sometimes I'd walk slower through the garden just hoping he'd be there. Once, it started pouring rain, and he gave me his jacket without a second thought. "You'll catch a cold," he said. I told him I didn't care. Ethan noticed the smallest things: a kid chasing butterflies, an old man playing violin near the fountain, the way morning light hit the flower stalls. He even helped me carry books once, laughing at how unprepared my soft hands were for anything heavy. He was unlike anyone I'd ever known. And even as I fell for him, some quiet part of me already knew this was dangerous. A rich girl and a poor boy rarely got a happy ending. Still, I told myself, let me have this moment, even if it breaks my heart tomorrow. One evening, I finally told him the truth. I was a Bennett, the family behind the shipping empire, the private estate in the hills, the name printed on half the buildings downtown. He went pale. His hands trembled slightly. "Sophia, why would you even talk to someone like me? I'm just a flower boy." I took his hand and whispered, "Because you see me, not my family's name." Not long after, I made the mistake, or maybe the bravest choice, of inviting him to dinner at my parents' estate. He almost said no, but I convinced him with a smile I knew he couldn't resist. When he arrived, I watched his jaw drop at the size of our home. Chandeliers dripped gold light. The carpets were so soft he seemed afraid to step on them. Servants bowed as I walked past, and then my parents appeared. My father wore a black suit and a colder expression. He looked at Ethan like he was something stuck to his shoe. My mother, even icier, asked flatly, "And what exactly do you do?" Ethan answered, nervous but steady, "I work at a flower shop." Her eyebrows rose like he'd confessed to a crime. Dinner was unbearable. Ethan dropped his fork once, and the sound echoed through the entire dining hall. I tried to soften the moment, asking him about the flowers in the garden, but my parents only sighed. Finally, my father said, "Sophia, this boy can barely take care of himself. Do you expect him to take care of you?" My face burned, but Ethan said nothing. Later, walking him to the door, I touched his arm and said, "Don't give up. They don't know you the way I do." My own words lit something inside me. I knew the real fight was just beginning. A week later, my parents threw one of their grand parties: politicians, business tycoons, celebrities, all under one roof. I begged Ethan to come. "I want them to see who you really are," I told him. He had no formal suit, so he borrowed one from his neighbor. It didn't fit quite right, but it was all he had. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers. Guests danced in long gowns while Ethan stood near the wall, looking like a shadow among the light. People whispered. A man laughed at his worn-out shoes. I saw his ears redden, but he stayed calm. I introduced him proudly to my friends. Some smiled politely, others laughed behind their hands. When the food was served, a waiter stopped him from taking a plate. "This is for guests only," the waiter said. I wanted to scream. He is a guest, but Ethan just bit his tongue. Then it got worse. My father raised his glass and announced, loud enough for the whole room to hear, "My daughter deserves better than some flower delivery boy." The room laughed. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would break through my chest. Tears filled my eyes. I ran to Ethan, grabbed his hand, and whispered, "I don't care what they say." We left that party together, my pride in pieces but his hand in mine giving me strength. For the first time, I understood this wasn't just love anymore. It was a fight for respect. Weeks later, after long arguments with my father, I convinced him to give Ethan one more chance at dinner. Ethan told me, "Whatever happens, I want to be by your side." My heart raced as we climbed the grand staircase again. Inside, my mother smiled politely, but my father's eyes were sharp as knives. At the table, my brother Marcus turned to Ethan with a smirk. "So, Ethan, what do you even do for fun? Can you even afford hobbies?" The words cut deep, but Ethan stayed calm. "I read books, play soccer with friends, and write short stories," he said quietly. Marcus laughed loudly, but under the table I squeezed Ethan's hand and whispered, "I'm proud of you." My father pressed harder, asking about money, about security, about whether Ethan could give me the life I deserved. Ethan looked him straight in the eye and said softly, "I may not have gold, but I have a heart that will never leave her. I'll work day and night to make her happy." For the first time, my father went silent. Even my mother looked stunned. When dessert arrived, something unexpected happened. I stood up, took Ethan's hand, and said, "Dad, Mom, I don't want jewelry, dresses, or cars. I want love, and I already have it with Ethan. If you can't accept that, then you can't accept me." The table went still. My father's face turned red with anger, but my mother lowered her eyes, hiding something softer underneath. Dinner ended in silence, but it wasn't empty silence. It was the sound of walls slowly cracking. That night I left with Ethan, holding him tightly, realizing this battle was no longer mine alone. It was ours. After that dinner, my father refused to speak to me. I packed a bag and moved into Ethan's tiny rented apartment. The ceiling leaked when it rained, the bed creaked, and the walls were thin. But I smiled and told him, "This is my palace because you're in it." His face lit up at my words. We built a simple life together. Ethan worked days at a bookstore and washed dishes at a cafe every night. I took a job teaching young children at a local school. Every evening we cooked together in our cramped little kitchen. Some nights dinner was only rice and vegetables, but I'd laugh and say, "This beats every banquet I ever sat through at home." My laughter filled those thin walls with light. Life wasn't always kind, though. One winter, Ethan lost his job at the bookstore. We couldn't make rent. He was crushed. One night he told me, "Maybe your father was right. Maybe I'm not enough for you." I held his face in my hands and said, "Don't ever say that. You are more than enough. We'll face this together." My faith kept him going. Soon after, I fell seriously ill with a high fever. We had no money for a doctor. Ethan ran door to door begging for help until an elderly neighbor gave us medicine and blankets. He sat beside me all night, praying I'd wake up. By morning, I opened my eyes and whispered, "See, you saved me." Tears filled his eyes. In that moment, I knew our love was stronger than any storm life could throw at us. No matter how hard the world pushed against us, Ethan never let go of my hand. He was my strength, my light, my reason to keep fighting every single day. Months later, something happened that neither of us expected. My father showed up at our door in his fine suit. I froze when I saw him standing there, taking in our tiny apartment with sharp, searching eyes. Then quietly he asked, "Sophia, are you truly happy here?" I smiled and answered, "Happier than I ever was in that big house." My father sighed and sat down. "I tried to keep you from him because I thought money mattered more than love. Now I see I was wrong. You're strong for him and he's strong for you." For the first time, his eyes softened when he looked at Ethan. "Ethan, I misjudged you. You gave my daughter what I never could, peace and real happiness." Tears rolled down my cheeks as I hugged my father. He even placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder and said, "Welcome to the family." Ethan's heart raced. After everything, after all the nights of proving himself, those words finally felt like victory. From that day forward, everything changed. My parents began supporting us. We moved into a modest but better home where I planted flowers by the window. Ethan found steady work at a publishing house, and slowly, our dreams started growing roots. Years later, we stood together looking at the life we had built. It wasn't made of gold or diamonds. It was made of love, respect, and faith. I looked at Ethan and whispered, "You chose me when the world didn't. That's why we won." He smiled, his eyes bright with love, and said, Yes, we won because love always wins in the end. And in truth, it did.